2 movie, which is being developed by Amazon. Obviously, everyone expected Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to be, backing It Takes Two, because those two things are just synonymous with one another. But no, I think this is really cool. Obviously, Amazon has taken their projects very seriously lately, so I have hope that they're going to do this justice. But it'll be interesting to see, I guess.
You know what? Sorry. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you know what? He's not that unfamiliar with family-friendly movies. He's done a lot of good ones over his career. He's done there's the football one with the Disney girl. Can't remember her name.
I know which one you're talking about. She was the girl.
I know Christian knows too.
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name though.
Yeah, so I mean, he's done stuff like this before to varying degrees of success. I'm just curious. Does this line up with the comments he was making a few months back when he was talking about doing a big video game project? Was when he was talking about that stuff, was he talking about starring in, or was he just talking about involvement? Is this what he was talking about, or is this something different?
Well, Gage, according to the report, it's also possible that Johnson will star in the movie, though the cast hasn't been finalized yet.
Oh, okay.
To which I will add, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does not strike me as a divorced dad vibes kind of guy.
Nope. Definitely
I need me a Steve Carell or an Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Maybe
nobody's
even
divorcing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah. So
that's perfect. Our next quick bite, guys. Blizzard president Mike Ybarra has officially denied Blizzard is pursuing NFTs following a report about Activision Blizzard investigating the technology. Ybarra was responding to a story from Video Games Chronicle. And essentially, Mike said, no one is doing NFTs. It's like, well, all right. Mike, if this is coming from Mike Ybarra, I trust what he says because he's seemingly a good dude. If this came from Bobby Kotick, I would be like, no, I don't believe
trust it.
Yeah,
you're right.
So,
do you know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like Activision is planning to do a lot of NFTs and Blizzard is not. So they're like, no, we're not fucking doing this shit, right? Activision, of course, Activision is going to be all about it. It's a schemy little slimy, incentive. So of course they're going to be all over it. But I think this is Blizzard. To me, this is Mike Ybarra saying you know what, this deal is probably going through. So Activision's working on NFTs now, but we're not going to be. You know what I mean? I'm guessing he's just betting on no, we're not.
And there have been, and this is a bit more personal since it's actually Mike Ybarra saying, and it's not like the company saying it, But there have been instances where, for example, Sega said they weren't going to do it, and then they were going to do it, and then they backtracked saying, okay, we're not going to do it. And then recently they came out and saying that we are going to do it, actually. So it is weird that you can't really take them at their word. Sometimes Mike Ybarra may be a different situation, but you never really know until they actually do it, unfortunately.
That's very true. Yeah. And if Mike Ybarra leaves tomorrow, who knows?
Yeah.
So, no thanks, IGN. I don't want to sign up for your newsletter. Sorry, that's where our next news story is coming from, which ties in, which is Microsoft almost acquired Blizzard over 2 decades ago, but was outbid twice. And this comes from Ed Freeze's interview. And IGN's reporting on it here, but it was an interview with Xbox Era. He essentially says, I was a huge Blizzard fan. If you think about the roots of our PC gaming business, it was real-time strategy. Warcraft, of course, was their biggest product at the time. So I just thought this was fascinating because, here we are 20 years later or whatever, and Microsoft bought Activision and Blizzard in one go. But if they would have bought Blizzard back then, I do wonder how things would have shook out for Blizzard's properties like Diablo and Warcraft and World of Warcraft and all of that, considering those are, mainly PC games and, have that PC audience.
Here we are full circle.
Yeah.
So many years later. Yeah, crazy.
Probably
it's crazy
though, because you know what, Microsoft hasn't always been this strong. They've kind of ebbed and flowed, right? So who knows what would have happened to Blizzard through the Don Matrick era, right? You know what I mean? I'm kind of glad it's worked out this way, where they're getting Blizzard during the Phil Spencer sort of Renaissance era of Xbox.
Gage, what are you talking about? Don Matrick was amazing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
How could you even say those? How did your mouth just not combust into flames just now?
I'm just kidding. Moving on. This next story is a very big one. I don't know. It's not really big, but it's interesting. Sega is reportedly working on a big budget reboot for both Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio. I also included here because I saw this late today, Sonic Origins got a remaster announced, which is interesting. It got a little bit of backlash in terms of like their different editions that they have.
Terrible editions.
Oh man.
But
Yes.
yeah, I think that the Crazy Taxi sounds really cool. Like if they make a really great remake for that game, I think that would be awesome. Jet Set Radio I never really played, but yeah, what is going on with Sonic?
What is the new indie that just, I think it came out or it's coming out this year, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, something like that, which is the Jet Set Radio kind of spiritual successor, kind of they're you know what I mean?
I've seen it. I didn't know that was the name of it though. But yeah, I
think
have
it's
seen it.
Bomb
around,
Rush
yeah.
Cyberpunk, and people
Rush.
are super excited for it because people Jet Set Radio, a cult classic. So, I mean, yeah, if they were seeing buzz around this kind of indie spiritual successor, then why not hop on that and do another revival of that? I don't know if I'm feeding for Crazy Taxi though. Like, I'm fine leaving that one behind.
Hey, come on over for some Crazy Taxi. Sorry.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
That was really good, actually.
Yeah, the Sonic Origins thing is quite a mess though, for sure. The chart that they released. We've seen some pretty bad charts in our days, I'm sure, as being gamers, but this one is something else. That there's like 5 different versions where they could just, I don't know, put it in one, or preferably at least 2. But
none of them include everything, right?
No.
Yeah,
yeah.
You have to buy like multiple things to get everything, which is insane. There's not one version that collects everything for like a super high price. That would be terrible in itself. But the fact that you have to buy like a little bit of everything is crazy.
Well, wait a minute. I'm looking at this chart now. The pieces that are missing from the digital deluxe edition are apparently free DLC included with the pre-order of standard or digital deluxe. So I don't know if I guess if you pre-order, you get everything if you get the digital deluxe. It's just confusing. Why do they?
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe it's just a really bad chart, and then
Yeah.
I guess that's where it comes down.
Do you guys remember the era of EA where they actually had like a template for all of their releases, where they would have that same 5-tier chart, and every game that came out, you'd be like, all right, let's get your bingo dabbers. How does this work again? Yeah, I mean, I feel like the best answer is that if your game needs a chart, you're probably doing too much nickel and diming and too much, splintering off of content. You probably should need a chart.
Yeah. Speaking of needing charts, we needed a chart to figure out where Marvel's Avengers is. It's not dead, guys. Marvel's Avengers got an update today, or maybe not today, whatever day they released this. April 19th, that was yesterday, sorry. And they just announced that we are getting Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, as expansion content for the Avengers. Holy crap, didn't expect that. They have an update 2.4 in the works with a number of components going into that rework, which includes make each event more unique and worth playing. We're improving and diversifying rewards across events, with each event now rewarding gear from different sets, adding unit rewards to a wider variety of event missions, adding higher power level gear rewards to meta objectives to create another path to gear up beyond the soft cap. Meta objectives will grant rewards to your entire eligible roster, not just a single hero, allowing you to gear up with your squad while playing as your favorite hero. And of course, getting Jane Foster on the platforms as well. So some new content coming for Avengers.
And you say it's not dead, and I want to fact check you so bad, because there was another article that came out today, or maybe it was a tweet or some kind of scoop that was talking about how even though despite this update, they still have no plans for a roadmap beyond anything that they've actually been working on. So
Yeah,
you know,
I was going to bring that up
jump
too.
in here, and I clicked
Big
on the
asterisk.
link here, and this is not the blog of a very thriving live game. Let me tell you that. Like, it may not be dead, but it's on life support. Yeah, I clicked on this blog, like expecting to scroll down a couple pages.
Nope.
This is not. This
Oh,
is not
no.
the blog of a healthy game. So, I think the clock is still ticking on this one.
Indeed. Your time is almost out, Avengers. Moving on, our next quick bite. Voice chat has finally arrived in Battlefield 2042. Here we are, 5 months after launch. But
Let's fucking go, boys.
I am glad that they're going back and addressing these things. I think it's going to take some time for DICE to get Battlefield 2042 in a position where people will be excited about it again. But
Are they even going to? They're already working
under
on the
1,000.
sequel.
Yeah,
are they?
under 1,000 players daily on Steam, and also they started pre-production on the next one.
I did not realize that.
Dude, what?
If you go to the comment section of any Battlefield like post, people are like lambasting them, like, "Where's our refund?"
Yeah,
Fair.
and
It's insane.
that would make an interesting topic of the show for one of these episodes. Yeah, because it's so strange. It's totally different from Halo in terms of just how Halo it had a rough launch, but Battlefield just like the rocket exploded upon liftoff. Like, it's just totally different. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if they're gonna be able to spin this around. I think the biggest thing is the specialists, right? They got rid of the one thing that made Battlefield unique, which is class based. Hey, you need an engineer, you need a medic, you need a support in your squad to do things. Where it's like they got rid of all that so that they could do the whole Modern Warfare specialist thing. And it totally had a way bigger effect on the game than they thought it would. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to fix that in a patch. They might just be doing stuff behind the scenes and thinking like, okay, if we want to bring the classic Battlefield gameplay back, this framework of this game doesn't support that. So maybe, yeah, it's crazy to me that they've already started and that they've announced it. They've officially announced it. That's weird too.
I feel like the toxicity in current climate of like people in general has like held back voice chat in recent years, because like I just remember the days of like Halo 2, you would have, your post-game lobby chat, or even Halo 3 post-game lobby chat where you're chatting with, the opponents you just played against and like just bickering back and forth and having a ton of fun with it. And it's like we've almost lost that nowadays. Like Halo Infinite, for instance, it doesn't have a post-game lobby, so you go to your post-game and you can't even hear your teammates, like unless they're in your party. You can't hear your teammates or your opponents in the post-game lobby. So I feel like we lose some of that, like just seeing this news story about voice chat. And this is just in terms of in-game stuff, but I don't know. I kind of wish we could go back to that kind of day, but I guess, people
what's
suck.
funny about that though is I don't. I mean, we're all roughly the same age. I don't know if things have gotten more toxic. Like Modern Warfare
True.
2, Halo 2, Halo 3. I mean, there's some pretty interesting characters. I think what's interesting is it's weird to me with these M for mature games, because it seems like getting rid of voice chat is a way to sort of kind of nudge towards like everyone can play, even if you're not exactly 17 over. Like, but you're right. Like, it's totally like if the game's M for mature, I mean, and people are trash talking you, it's like, well, I just blew up a squad of 4 people in a bus. Like it is strange. Yeah, you see a lot of games moving away from voice, but like when it's in M for mature games, like a great example is Back 4 Blood. Back 4 Blood, you can't, any swear word will get censored, and then your character will swear in the game. And it's like, okay, what kind of game are we playing here? I don't know what's going on.
Fair. Very fair. Guys, MetaQuest, I think they were the ones who had this event, had an event with some VR news, but we have a couple of those pieces here that we're going to pull out. Among Us VR was officially confirmed, coming holiday 2022 to the Quest 2, Steam, and PlayStation VR. And we also got Ghostbusters VR, which is coming, and that looks kind of crazy, actually. I saw some Ghostbusters fans, Greg Miller, freaking out on Twitter about it. So I think that that definitely would fit very well, I think, in the VR space, having some ghosts to bust, I guess. I don't know.
Among
we
Us
go.
VR looks. Oh, sorry, Christian.
No, please.
I was saying Among Us VR looks like so much fun. I can't wait to eventually get a headset and play that for sure. That looks like a lot of fun. I just like giggling looking at the trailer here, like the green astronaut just pointing his finger at just straight at your face. Like that's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait for that.
If you do get a Meta Quest,
Yes,
which they are fairly affordable nowadays.
Mhm.
We should do a podcast PXN because I think
In
you're the
the-
last person to have a VR headset, and
that's
then
me. Yeah.
that would
That'd
be
be dope.
would be fun. That would be a fun bit of content there.
Yes.
I can run you through a quick rundown of some of the other stuff that was there because there's actually a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Among Us, we talked about it. That being leaked last week, and it is confirmed. Game called Red Matter 2. It looks pretty cool. I think that's an FPS. Moss, the game that was a PSVR title, that then ported over to the Quest as well. Confirmed that Book 2 will be released on the Quest as well, so you can play the sequel there. Cities VR, RE4
Nice.
VR is getting the Mercenaries mode included. There's a new mixtape for Beat Saber, another FPS, Bone Lab. Yeah, I think that's the highlights.
There's one more that you missed actually, which
Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Chapter 2. Yes.
Yeah, The Walking Dead has been hit or miss with its games, but the Saints and Sinners VR game is absolutely fantastic, and the fact that it's getting a sequel that looks significantly better is very exciting.
Yeah, I think Sean told me that I need to play that also a long time
It's
ago.
good.
And
It's better than it has any right to be. Like it's really good.
I gotta play it. All right, our next quick bite, guys. A nice little quality of life improvement here from PlayStation. So essentially, PC players can now update their DualSense controllers to the latest firmware without having to connect to a PS5. So essentially, Sony's doing like an application where you can update your PS5 controller on PC instead of needing a PS5 console for it. I think that's a great little quality of life improvement. So just want to throw that in there. Guys, I don't know how this game is going to fail. So whoever chose this as the counter pick, I'm so sorry. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is bringing back the voice actors from the classic 1987 animated TV series. And we got 11 minutes of gameplay from IGN for the first two stages, and it looks really good. I'm assuming that's you, Gage, who chose
That was my
it.
panic counter pick. All right, I panicked. I made a mistake.
Yeah.
It happens. Not to me.
Wait, didn't you choose? Wait, what was your counter pick?
No, it was Roshan who had the bad one.
I chose Sifu. Yeah, that was pretty rough. So I'm glad Gage picked this one. So at least I get one W out of this.
You're not gonna have the biggest L for counter picks.
Yeah.
That's your W.
I mean, I still probably picked the worst counter pick, but at least I'm not alone. Oh my god, this game looks awesome. Looks so good. I can't wait. And the fact that they got the original voice actors to come back is just even cooler.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm just gonna throw this in here because I just saw this come in a little bit ago. Blizzard has officially revealed big changes to Erisa and Doomfist in Overwatch 2. That's interesting. Doomfist, I guess, is a perfect example of the kinds of seismic shifts some heroes receive in the sequel. No longer a damage hero, Doomfist comes into Overwatch 2 as a tank. However, the unique hero retains a lot of what makes him unique to Overwatch. This shift away from his status as a DPS character brings with it a huge health increase from 250 to 450. His hand cannon stays largely the same, but instead charges ammo quicker. His signature rocket punch is also quicker while dealing less damage, but it keeps its knockback power. And his new kit really differs in Overwatch 2 with his new power block move, which reduces incoming damage to the front by 90%. There's a bunch of other changes in here, but I don't even know where. Okay, Doomfist's Seismic Slam now launches him into the air, similar to Winston's Leap, which I understand that. I know who Winston is. And also rounding out Doomfist's new kit is a new iteration of Meteor Strike, which is his ultimate ability, and his ability gains a shorter cast time, but it deals reduced damage and no knockback. Erisa, on the other hand, Erisa's primary fire is a larger projectile that deals more damage the closer she is to enemies and uses a cooldown system that activates if you overheat her weapon. She has a secondary fire, Energy Javelin, which is now a skill shot projectile javelin that hits the first enemy in its path, dealing a micro stun and extra damage if it pushes them into a wall. Keeping with the offensive and javelin-based themes, those pesky barriers are no more. Instead, Javelin Spin lets Erisa spin a javelin that destroys enemy projectiles, increases her movement speed, and knockback damage enemies as well. And her ultimate ability, Terra Lance, causes Erisa to become fortified and pull in nearby enemies while she charges up an area of effect attack. I don't even know what I just said, but that's a lot of information.
Yeah, but you said it.
Yeah, this comes from Brian Shea from Game Informer. I just want to give him credit because I was reading directly from Game Informer there. So
Nice.
Lots of stuff. And then, guys, the final quick bite. Bungie has officially left a Easter egg in Destiny 2 that is teasing their new IP. I thought this was very cool to see. Of course, Bungie has a long history of doing this kind of stuff. Of course, famously alluding to Destiny and Halo 3 ODST with the little Destiny poster. So very interested to see what this little Easter egg is and, what their game is, their next game.
Heck yes. I'm sure they will do it. And I'm not sure if it's in the game right now because Christopher Baird did a walk back his tweet and changed his yes to a maybe recently. And then I'm not sure if it's, I don't want to say who it is because I'm not sure their relation, but I thought they were related somehow. But this other person that I assume either they work with or he lives with says, "You're a damn troll." So it's possible that it's not in the game yet, but I know, like you were saying, they have done this in the past for sure. So it's only a matter of time that they do it because they did it for Destiny. I think they did it for other Halo games in the future too. So yeah, I'm excited for when they do it if it isn't already there, because it's always fun to search around for those little secrets in Destiny.
Agreed. Guys, I'm introducing a new segment here. The PXN WTF of the week. To preface this, I literally...
Why are you hating, man?
Wait a minute. Okay, to be fair to the audience, I do hate this man that I'm about to talk about. However, this literally is the worst redesign I've ever seen in my entire life. I thought that when I saw this and maybe you guys disagree, but when I saw this, I thought it was a joke. And then I looked and I was like, okay, it's not a joke. A Ninja got a new logo. He actually paid someone for this logo, and I think his original design. His original design looks amazing. I actually love his original design, and the new design, I'm just like, is this like Adidas with plain text? I don't even. What the heck is this?
Isn't it his? Sorry, go ahead.
None of my business is what it is.
That's fair.
You know what? As someone who doesn't watch any streamers and could give two shits, I will say, Dan, you're absolutely right. The first logo is leagues better than the second one. But my God, man, stand down. Leave the horse alone. It's dead.
Oh man,
I do like the original logo more as well.
So yeah. The font, the original font too, is
perfect.
Why?
Yeah.
It's
very strange. The old Ninja. Everybody always says that. So
man.
Yeah, I don't miss the old or new Ninja. All right.
Man.
Moving into the PXN news of the week, guys. Our first news of the week. I thought this would be a cool first story here for us. It's a little bit of a story. It'll be a quick story, I promise. It won't be like my Overwatch story that I just told. This comes from Paul Russell, which of course he worked on the Halo series for a while with Bungie, and he was tweeting at Halo. Halo posted this image yesterday, so I'll add that I built and textured the Flood Elite combat form and did the textures and materials for this environment. Tweeting in regards to the original Halo Combat Evolved. Someone asked him a question about, since you could see people being infected by the Flood in Halo 3, was this ever planned for Halo Combat Evolved? He responds with, not so much. We showed the infection forms attacking and indicated how they burrowed their tails in, but honestly, we were lucky to get that much done. We made 90% of that game in 9 months. It was insane. So then people proceeded to ask, you made the Halo Combat Evolved in 9 months? And someone asked about Halo 2 as well. He responded, no, we worked for 3 years on Halo 2. A lot of the environments were rushed at the end because design had a lot of changes. They were really divided, and Jason was missing in action for much of that time. Jason Jones, of course, the founder of Bungie. So triggers weren't pulled until he came back at the 11th hour. Halo Combat Evolved was 9 months because we didn't get dev kits until January of 2001. Was content complete in September. I worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week until then. Some worked from home on weekends and into the night. Others were smart and realized they got paid the same to not kill themselves. He said, we had fun most days. There was always times for tomfoolery. I remember the day Jamie, and I'm assuming he's referring to Griesemer, which was one of the design leads for Halo, made some tweaks that made the game fun for the first time. I think right before content complete, he shouted, Halo is going to make $1 million. It was a nail biter. We really didn't know up until the last second if the game was going to be a turd. Knives were sharpening at Microsoft. It was a traumatic crunch for me, but we still had laughs. The success didn't hit home until Halo 2's launch when we got off the bus at Best Buy. And then he goes into a bunch of that as well. But he said, just to kind of close this out, when we got to Microsoft, they only had that one enormous Chrome X. From June 2000 to January 2001, they had to make hundreds of sketches and designs, build the UI, design the controller, which Jason helped build, dev tools, and build everything from the ground up. They crunched too, big time. I just thought this was a really crazy story about crunch back in the day, of course, during Halo Combat Evolved, and the effect that it had back then compared to now. And like, one question I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys think that crunch now being driven as a major issue, whereas back then it clearly wasn't, has an effect on the games being made? Like positively, negatively, what kind of effect do you guys think this is going to have on the future of games?
Sorry, just a clarifying question. Do you mean like, will hopefully less crunch lead to, how will that affect the industry?
Yes, correct. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
Okay, time is going to... I was actually thinking about this, right? Because obviously it would have a positive effect on like relations with their employees, right? But that would lead to fewer games, right?
Right.
And like, would there be a drop in quality? Was the big question I was kind of thinking about, because obviously when it's a business, right? Games need to come out eventually. Games can't keep being postponed forever, you know. So I don't know. I don't have an answer because I really don't know what that's going to look like, because crunch is like all I've ever really known. So I don't know.
I think mandatory crunch is what the issue is, and it's unfortunate because everybody just uses the term crunch, but like we've all four of us here have our own YouTube channels. We've all made content, and I don't know about you guys, but like some of my best content was made from me staying up for like 13 hours straight in this in an absolute zone, just like, okay, I know exactly what I gotta do, and I just sit there and I check the time and like, oh shit, it's been 4 hours, I'm still editing this video. Like, crunch can be a good thing. I think the problem is mandatory crunch, right? Like, this game needs to get done by this time. You're not leaving your office until XYZ. That's the type of crunch that's super unhealthy. But like, I mean, yeah, I think crunch can absolutely lead to creative breakthroughs, and like, I think it really, in the industry, it's as simple as just offering like, okay, here's an overtime policy. If you'd like to stay, you know, if you want to stay as long as you want, if you want to work here all night, you can. That's your own choice, and we'll pay you for it. But like, the problem is when it's like, okay, this game needs, we've arbitrarily decided this game needs to come out at this holiday window, so get it done. Like that's the type of crunch that will absolutely have an effect on games in the final quality of them. But I think trying to say, go ahead.
That's kind of what it's the unspoken rule now of most studios, is that there is no kind of, I mean, I say a lot of studios have no quote unquote mandatory crunch, but they're encouraged, right, to do this. And when they see like their superiors staying over and the whole teams are staying, and like it leads to people feeling like they're forced to kind of stay because everyone else is doing it. And so it's kind of like this unspoken kind of mandatory.
So to me, that is also mandatory. Like I mean, no bullshit. Like you have an actual leader in the team who's not pressuring, because that's exactly you're right, Christian. Like on the wall, the policy is no forced overtime, but they make comments and they pressure you. So when I'm saying no mandatory, I mean like including that bullshit where it's like, I'm not technically saying you have to stay. No, that is still mandatory crunch. That is still fostering a work culture that promotes, if you're not putting in as much as I'm putting in, you're not a part of the team. Like that's bullshit. So in my mind, I consider that, like, I know what you're saying. Like a lot of companies get away with that because they say like, it's not our policy. But yeah, no, I mean that's included as well. That I consider that mandatory crunch, where if you're making people feel like they have to work, regardless of whether or not there's anything on paper saying they're going to get disciplined, they still feel the pressure to do, which is not fostering creativity. It's just enabling this, toxic sort of work culture. So I think if we move away from that and we still allow as an industry crunch on your own terms, like, yeah, absolutely, because Halo is one of the biggest franchises in the entire world, and that the first 3 games were almost made entirely of crunch, of people being really passionate about this game, really wanting to make it, really wanting to prove to Microsoft that they could do it, and they made some of the best games ever made. So crunch has a place. It's just mandatory crunch that is what I think is harming the.
There's also an interesting dichotomy there though too, because it's like if you're not encouraging crunch, but like even if it's not mandatory, the people that want to go crunch or whatever for so many hours, they may be looked upon as being quicker for raises or promotions or whatever. So it's still in a tricky area where it's like, is it mandatory? No, but like, could that still be influenced on the work environment?
Yeah.
Well, and then that's a whole wider conversation to have, because then it's like, well, how do you limit people from giving 110%? You know what I mean? Like you're right. You're totally right. And that just kind of, that's a whole issue with unions and all that stuff, where it's like there's a much wider conversation to have for sure. That's a great point though. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I totally agree with everybody, what everybody is saying, and with what Gabe is saying, where we all kind of crunch in whatever we may be passionate about, like whether it be a drawing or a video or something like that. And I do think some amazing things have come out of crunch, but at the same time, even though crunch does sometimes help us put out really good work, at the same time it does also impact our health, and it could also have the opposite effect where we are burnt out because we're working so much that we just like don't want to do this ever again.
Right.
So yeah, I think it does have a place as well. I think it's just all about monitoring it and having it in a healthy amount, I guess I should say. But it's so hard to measure that. Like how do you know you've crunched enough, or you only know until you've crunched too much, unfortunately. Right. So it's a weird thing to buckle down on, but I don't think less crunch is going to result in worse quality in games. It just means that we're going to get games less, as like you were saying, Christian. Yeah. But it's always the people at the top who want these games out at a certain time to line their pockets and their investors and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think less crunch is ever going to equal something bad. I think it's always going to be a good outcome.
Speaking of crunch and unions, though, there was a bigger article that came out this week that I sent to Dan, and he refused to include in the doc.
Oops.
In fact, he LOL'd at it today.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
He messaged me privately saying, Christian thinks I'm going to put this in the show. He's watched me not do it.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
And
you sent the Mario one, right?
which was a quote tweet about Doug
He did
Bowser,
put it
which was
To be fair, no, Christian put it in there, but to be fair, I didn't even barely read that. I just kind of clicked on it at work, and I was like,
Mario
why
time.
else
And
would I
like, what
send
the heck
this
is
to you?
this?
I didn't know. I thought you were just sending a joke. So I saw Miyamoto
No.
said it's Mario time. I was like,
No,
oh, that's
I
funny.
totally get where Dan is coming from. When I skimmed it, when I saw Mario time, I was like, what is this nonsense? And then I actually read it, and then like, oh, this is not good.
Media
But
literacy these days, am I right, bro?
I love the
Absolutely.
idea. Sorry, we're gonna read it. Never mind.
Yeah. So I actually want to start with the fanbyte article, and we don't have to speak about this in depth at all because we already said everything we need to say about union busting, but I at least want to like say the news. And so yesterday, April 19th, fanbyte came out with this. Nintendo America has been hit with a labor complaint stating the company has been interfering with attempts to organize within the company. I'm going to give you some specifics. Specifics on the alleged union busting aren't clear at this time, but the complaint's listing cites coercive actions such as surveillance, coercive statements, including threats and promises of benefits, concerted activities, retaliation or disciplinary actions, and layoffs of/refusing to hire people. The listing notes these broad concepts, but doesn't include any more descriptions of what exactly is being claimed here. We've reached out to Nintendo for comment, and we'll update the story if we hear back. So, family-friendly, lovable companies like Nintendo are also doing these kinds of union busting within the industry, which is terrible, right? And so there was like a conversation that was happening about like, Doug Bowser taking over and like how it's gotten like worse. And then this is where the Mario time comes in. And this is from an article from 2017. Quote, in those days, Miyamoto would come to us at 11 p.m. after he finished all of his board member work and say, it's Mario time, which I understand why the LOL, because that is funny.
Yeah.
However, at that point, we'd start a planning meeting that would run until 2 a.m. At that point, Miyamoto would go home, leaving us with the words, you should return home soon for your health. Well, I don't know, at 2 a.m. Over the next 2 or 3 hours, we'd write the game design documents and summarize the instructions for our artists and programmers. It's around like 4 to 5 a.m. you're going home from work. It was the craziest crunch time that I've ever experienced in my development career, but if the god of games was working so much, could we give up? Miyamoto has incredible stamina. Does he have incredible stamina? Sure. Is this super unhealthy and kind of a negative, toxic work environment? I would also say yes, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, but the idea of like a room full of workers that have black circles under their eyes that are just soaked in sweat that just want to go home, and the boss kicking in the door and going, "Oh yeah, Mario time!"
That's exactly how I pictured it too.
It's awful, but it's also the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I apologize. I apologize, Christian. I should have read the whole thing. I read that first sentence and I was just laughing. I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious!" And then I said "LOL," and
my God,
I should have read the whole thing.
It's awful, but it's also amazing.
I cannot say it's amazing when you're going home at 5 a.m. from work. That's pretty freaking terrible to me.
That is a one thing I wanted to ask though, because yes, the meeting ended at 2 a.m. and not to defend Miyamoto here, but he did say to go home. Was this an optional crunch thing, like that we're talking about? Did these people decide to stay and work the extra thing because they felt pressured, or because they wanted?
My understanding is, the work has to get done soon, right? And the only way to do that is if you
get it
stay
done.
right now, because we're already right here and finish that.
Gotcha. Yikes.
What an absolute mad lad!
Mario time.
It's Mario time.
My God.
It'd be everyone. No one is safe. Everyone is.
I hate to break it too, but like Mario games are not pushing the boundaries of what games can be. It's hilarious to me that there's that amount of crunch for even a Mario game, because it's like I don't know. It's crazy.
Moving on, guys, to our next PXN news story. That doesn't involve shitty crunch. I don't know. I was trying to come up with a good transition, and that was the best I had. Sony is cooking up plans to run ads in PlayStation games, as rival Microsoft has also planned a similar program with Xbox. So not good. Apparently, this is going to happen again, which I didn't realize the article I linked to is you have to pay for. Yeah. So I'm not going to do that.
Oh my God. This is the problem, Dan. I'm tired of being consumer in every aspect of my life. I already bought the damn console.
Yep.
You know?
That's fair. And the crazy part is like this was already a thing like many years ago. Like on the Xbox 360, PS3 generation, I feel like this was a big thing with like sports games like Madden. They were putting ads all over their sports games. I think even Barack Obama, when he was running for president, that was one of the examples that he had political advertisements in the games. It was just like there's just so many ad things in the history of video games that have not worked well, and you would think that they would learn, but here we are bringing ads back.
The EA and sports games I can to an extent understand because they're trying to replicate the TV experience and the courtside like billboards and stuff like that, but seeing advertisements in like say like a single player game or I don't even know what their plans is because we can't read the article because it's paywalled.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see where they place these ads if they do decide to go ahead and go through with this. But yeah, not a good look.
Let's say like loading screens or menus and stuff.
From what I've heard, because I did read some of this, I don't know where I read it, but they're looking at things like billboards inside of games and like trying to get cheeky with it like that.
Oh, okay.
Which doesn't sound horrible, but the problem is like once you say okay to this, does it then become super right? Once everybody's like, oh, okay, sure, fine, we don't mind, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere, right? Like that's the only problem.
You hit the nail on the head, Gage. Yeah.
Agreed. Time will tell, I guess, how bad it gets. Guys, I've been really just not paying attention to the YouTube chat, so I apologize, everyone. Zach Wynn says, sup, fellas, have a good show. Thank you, Zach. And Glenn, of course, is joining us, as always, talking about a Disney actress, and the film was Game Plan. Oh, that was from the pre-show.
The Rock, yeah.
Thank you. That was... Oh, okay, never mind. That was in the show. Thanks, Glenn. Our last news story, guys. Cory Barlog has officially gave fans a message on Twitter from the Sony Santa Monica account saying God of War Ragnarok isn't quite ready to be shown yet. I watched the whole video a little bit before the podcast started, and this is, of course, the 4-year anniversary of the original, the remake of God of War 2018. So it is nice to hear from them and give an update, so to speak, on where they're at. The interesting thing the vibe that I'm getting from this update that Cory gave us is it feels like this game's going to get delayed, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah. So of course, like, obviously this has an implication for Sony if God of War is delayed, because I don't think we have anything else this fall for Sony, unless I'm forgetting something. But my question to you guys is, does it matter? Does it matter if God of War gets delayed to next year, besides Dan's fantasy critic team?
It gives us all a chance, yeah. But aside from that, no, I mean, this game would crush in February of next year or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I actually think they're not going to push the game ahead, so I think a delay is probably the best situation for it. Like, if this game came out in summertime or in springtime, it's going to absolutely dominate. So I think what's interesting too is how little Sony is being like uncharacteristically quiet. Like, they're normally pretty quiet, but like we don't know a whole lot about their upcoming plans for AAA first party games. So I mean, maybe they're playing things like super close to the chest and they're going to pull like a Todd Howard and do like a June or July show and be like, hey, God of War's coming out in 2 months. Maybe. But yeah, no, this reeks of a delay to me.
Cory seems so tired too in that video.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping he was just celebrating the day, but it does look like he's definitely out of it.
I don't know. He's at the office. I don't know if he's working up in there. True.
We don't know how. We don't know how liberal the development studio is. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Dan, to answer your question, well, does it matter for the PlayStation in terms of like fall? No, it hasn't mattered since 2014 when the PS4 dropped, and they had nothing that fall, and it was nothing but third-party games, and it still sold amazing, and then it continued that way for years. Doesn't matter when these big games. Does not matter when these games come. When they come, they sell. Yeah, and in fact, the systems still sell.
Yep, I don't think I could really add any more to that. That is the truth. I'm just so excited for this game whenever it does come around. I can totally see it being delayed. I feel, when did we first see the gameplay for this? Last year, right? 2021. I think it was.
Oh my god, the trailer. When was that?
We saw the reveal trailer in 20. It definitely wasn't last year.
I think it was
maybe
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
At the Game Awards, right? Or something like
I think so.
Yep.
I don't remember. But I know we definitely saw the gameplay last year. I'll search it up real quick.
What are we talking about?
The
So
Ragnarok
the very
gameplay.
first thing they showed was just the logo with
Just the
voiceover
logo.
from Christopher
Yeah.
Judge.
Yeah.
I think
But
that might have been 2019 or 2020.
That was the announcement. Then there was the right?
Game. Then they.
There has not been gameplay, right? I would not consider that a gameplay trailer.
There has
has
been gameplay trailer.
That is gameplay, right?
Really, it's really quick snippets.
Come on, no, that is not a gameplay trailer.
In-engine trailer. We can say.
Let me see.
There was combat in it though, wasn't there?
I think so. Yeah, no, there
a gameplay trailer is like the 15-minute long, like no cuts. Someone is actually playing a sequence
you mean
of
like
the game.
deep dive, like the Red Dead style sort of?
No, like gameplay.
Oh.
Okay. I'm looking at the trailer now, and no, it's okay. there's snippets. It's not like a full length of gameplay. You're right. But yeah, they call it the reveal trailer, and it was revealed 2021. Yeah. So I mean, it looks
those video game semantics where it's like gameplay trailer. Like there's
not a
gameplay in it.
gameplay
No, but I mean
that
like a
means
gameplay.
Something.
Yeah,
that means something.
Yeah. So
Fair
this is the real reveal trailer. So I stand corrected on. So I would assume that before we get the game, I guess we would see a gameplay trailer, hopefully. And when that happens, we don't know, but hopefully in June, like Gage was saying. But does that come out the 2 months later, like Gage is saying, or next year? We don't know. But I could see this being delayed. The way that he was talking about it makes me feel like it's delayed. But
For sure.
I was just trying to get the time frame around it via the trailers. But those really don't really do much these days, honestly. We never really know when a game is coming out, honestly.
I hope they don't do a gameplay trailer, and to be honest, I'm the closer we get to it, the more I'm thinking they might just not do it, because gameplay trailers take a long time to produce and make, and it takes time away from development. Like look at Miles Morales. Granted, that was like a smaller sequel title. That didn't really wait, no, it did have a gameplay trailer. Take it back.
I'm pretty sure most games get a gameplay trailer.
Yeah,
like
that's
I think
true.
It's
All right, you know what? Never mind. Fine, we're getting one.
Yeah.
I flip-flopped.
All right. Well,
I can't believe I did it.
Before we move on, I just want to say I really like the idea too of doing like a game story in 2 games instead of making it the arbitrary like trilogy. Like I think it's so cool that he's come out and said like this is the end of the Norse saga. Like just 2 games. That's all we need to tell the story. Cool. I like that.
yes. But then we go to the next mythology saga.
Fine.
And it continues. Yeah, I agree. It's cool. Guys, a quick fantasy draft check-in. Just a real quick one because there's not really been much to come of it. We don't need to go over the points. We've gone over that a million times. But upcoming games, April 29th, we've got Nintendo Switch Sports. Christian's got that coming his way. Trek to Yomi coming May 5th. So a couple games coming your way. Ro, you've got your game Mario Strikers coming June 10th. So we got quite the run of games coming here very soon, and they're not my games for once.
Yeah, thank God for that, eh?
All right, guys. Let's move into what you got for me. I've been playing Master Chief Collection. Played the new Flood Firefight mode in Halo 3 ODST Firefight. Very, very cool. Especially, I really think it's cool that the Gravemind's voice is in this, which is fantastic. I'm assuming they pulled clips from his voice in Halo 3's campaign. But it's really cool to just like go through the different waves and Gravemind's voice comes over the area and you're just like, oh my God, this is scary. And of course, people who don't know, Gravemind is the like brainchild or whatever you want to call him of the Flood. So it's super cool and creepy to play that mode, and very cool that they've added this. It's a lot of fun. A little bit of a mixed up gameplay there for a firefight. Also,
when does it happen in the? I played Flood Firefight. I did not hear the Gravemind. Does that only happen at certain waves?
No, it's pretty much after every wave. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll have to listen for that.
Yeah, he has different lines that he chimes in with, which I think
cool.
at least some of them are from Halo 3's campaign, but I don't know if some of them are maybe cut dialogue, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very cool. Also, I've been playing some VR again with Christian. We played last Friday. Had some fun with that. Some thrills, some scares, some Dan crying. And also Daniel getting killed in mini golf by Christian because,
Dude.
you know.
Am I allowed to say this real quick? Can I jump in for a second?
And you know what? That's all I had. So jump in. What you got for me, Christian?
So, okay. Well, I want to start off with the VR stuff. Dan told me to get this game called Walkabout Mini Golf, and I said, you know what? Why not, Dan? I'll spend. It was on sale. Dan paid full price. I paid a discount, so that was already a big dub for me. And then we start playing, and I am smoking this dude, literally and figuratively, because I have an edible. And it starts kicking in halfway through, and I'm still smoking this dude.
Wait a minute. You only won by like 2, right?
And I had 2 hole-in-ones in this game, and Dan's over here getting forfeit holes because he's taking too many strokes. And I'm like, I'm living the dream out here. And then my headset dies like halfway through.
Oh, no.
On the 18th hole, no less.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was. And then I messaged Christian. I was like, so that match doesn't count because you quit.
It doesn't. I'm with you, actually. Like, we should redo it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've also been playing some Rocket League again. That's why, if you've been on my Twitter, you know why I should. I was talking to my friend about this, and like, oh yeah, that's right. I was on an IGN video for like the dumbest clip, and they used it. So, but whatever. Now Mikal said my name. Hey, Greg. We don't talk about my old Twitter handle. And then I jumped into Fall Guys as well, and that's been a lot of fun as well. So. A lot of fun downtime.
Bro, what you got for me?
Alrighty, I am still playing Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So I beat the post-game final boss last week. That was fun. Enjoyed that. And by doing that, I unlocked I'm assuming the last and hardest level of this tournament area, which is just essentially boss rush. And it's very fun to try and like beat your time and kind of finish with the most health. So I'm having a lot of fun just beating up the bosses in Kirby. And I got this like really cool ability. I don't want to spoil it because if Christian's going to play it, I don't want to spoil it. But it's a really cool ability to just unleash this power on on the various bosses, just creaming them. But besides that, that's it. Actually, that's all I've been playing. I'm hoping to actually doing this boss rush in Kirby makes me want to go back to Metroid Dread and play the boss rush mode. I kind of want to give that a shot, hopefully later this week. But yeah, just Kirby this week. That's all I've been up to.
Heck yeah.
I am going to play Kirby, so thank you for that.
Gage, what you got for me?
Just a whole lot of Back 4 Blood. The new update came out, new DLC dropped, and I might have put that in the wrong line. That's fine. And aside from that, just working on some other secret project type stuff. But Back 4 Blood's good. It's the DLC's fine. I think it's only priced at like $16 or something like that, which is a good price. Or that's the Game Pass price I think you pay. So, aside from that, not a whole lot of gameplay.
What's a 1-word tease from your secret project? It's not a word.
That's not a word.
Well,
you could spell that
language
out.
has many forms of communication.
All right. Moving into the topic of the show, ladies and gentlemen, or just gentlemen, because there's no ladies here. I don't know why I said ladies, but
we just got a lot more from that.
Amy Hennig, who is one of the original creators for the Uncharted series, of course, one of the lead writers on Uncharted as well, has announced that her studio Skydance New Media, which was founded in November of 2019, is making a brand new Star Wars game in addition to their previously announced Marvel project. So we've got some crazy stuff here. More Star Wars games on the way. It looks like the game will reportedly be a revival of Project Ragtag, and also based in the Imperial era, which, of course, Project Ragtag was the game coming from Visceral Games, which Amy was a part of at EA before EA disgustingly shut down Visceral Games. I loved Visceral Games. Rest in peace.
And people don't like single player games, Dan, don't you know?
Yeah.
Don't you
Apparently.
know?
Apparently. Christian, did you have something to throw in?
A question,
Yes.
but if you're gonna keep going, then I can ask it in a second.
I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay. Because I did not. Okay, I was reading up on this stuff, but I'd never read that it's supposed to be a revival of Project Ragtag, which is why I did this, because that's exciting. But also, I don't know how rights work. Like,
Yeah. I think
can they do this?
I think that's
Like,
gonna.
it can't be a 1-to-1, right? It has to be
No.
like just taking pieces from it and maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see this being like a literal revival. I think it's more so going to be like Amy obviously has the ideas in her head of what she wanted that to be, and they're going to use those ideas for this new project. Because, yeah, of course, EA owns the assets for that project. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
That's
depending-
cool to hear, though. Sorry.
Depending on how far along they got, like she might maybe, like in terms of like story and characters, EA only owns what she wrote down and documented, right? So
Right.
she very well could have been like, oh well, the opening area and the character design I can't use, but the overall story is still mine, right? It's still her idea. So I'm psyched because she was the lead writer on the first 2 Uncharted games, and I think she was co-writer on the third one. Yeah, she's one of the most talented people working in the industry, and I hope this game comes out, and I hope it absolutely slaps, and I hope all the executives at EA lose sleep for the next 3 weeks after this game comes out. How dare you? I still get so angry. It makes me so angry, Dan. You don't know how angry it makes me.
Can we talk about, just for a second? Can we talk about how like freaking cool it was, like the way she announced it on Twitter? Just never tell me the odds. That is what a baller way to like say I'm still working on game. Yeah. By the way,
Dan, if you're gonna use the word G, now is the time.
What is
He is an absolute G.
For real.
I have a quick question. The Star Wars 1313 project, was that another Amy Hennig joint, or was that somebody else?
No, that was Disney. That was Disney.
Which is kind of
or Lucasfilm.
It's interesting because Project Ragtag seemed to be like a spiritual successor to Project 1313, and now her new Project Ragtag is a spiritual successor of the first Project Ragtag, which is a spiritual successor of 1313.
Gotcha. But this is super exciting. Every time a Star Wars story comes out, I always make it a habit to mention that I'm so Star Warsed out. But Amy Hennig being behind it, I definitely want to give it a shot, just because of, as Gage was mentioning, her history with Uncharted, and she's just like super talented. So I'm down for a Star Wars game from her for sure.
Yeah,
she deserves a dub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Having not released a game in so long.
That's crazy. I hope this thing comes out and slaps. That'd be so yeah.
So I have a couple questions here, but before I get to those questions, I just thought of another question. What do you think comes first? Do you think that their Star Wars project or the Marvel project comes first? Obviously, the Marvel project was announced first. You think the Marvel?
Yeah, it's been like 3 years since it was announced. That's
what?
That is a huge head start.
I don't.
What
has it been announced that long?
Wasn't it 2019?
That's when the studio was founded, but I don't think that's when they announced the Marvel partnership. I don't think, unless I'm mistaken.
Oh, that was the studio. The game announcement was 2021 in October.
Yes, so not that long ago, actually.
This definitely changes my answer to another question that you had. So I'm gonna delete that.
Okay, well then I'll just go ahead and move into that question to kind of lead down the path here. So my first inclination from this is, of course, as we just researched here, the Marvel project was just announced a few months ago. Are you guys at all worried that this brand new studio they started in 2019 is being stretched too thin by producing 2 massive properties? Not just like 2 new properties, but 2 massive properties of Star Wars and Marvel at the same time. And also, I also wrote down, so like recent history with AAA studios starting up, like, you know, we've heard the stories about the Initiative and the issues that Microsoft has had starting up that studio. Like, is there, you know, are we, you know, getting too excited too fast? Because yes, this sounds awesome. And like, I was super excited for Amy Hennig and Visceral Games when they announced Project Ragtag, but that was the only thing that Visceral Games was working on at the time. And they were an experienced studio and like amazing studio that I loved. So like, I do have a little bit of pessimism when it comes to this, because it's just like, could we maybe get a little further on the Marvel project before we announce this? Because I just feel like you're going to have two massive properties fighting for attention at the studio. And I do worry about that a little bit with a brand new studio like this. But what do you guys think?
So there's a couple things there. I think, so we know it's a Marvel game and we know it's a Star Wars game. To be fair, we don't know the scope and scale of both games, right? Like if this Marvel game, it probably won't be, but let's say it's like a Squadrons type game. Obviously, that's not a huge Uncharted type undertaking. And then the other thing I would say with the initiative, I think the problem that Microsoft had is that they tried to just fabricate a AAA studio out of thin air by trying to attract people to the studio, whereas Amy Hennig is the talent and she's already there. She's leading this team, as opposed to, hey, let's just try and get people to make. You can't just make a studio, a AAA studio, and just by calling it so, clearly, as we've seen with the initiative. Whereas Amy Hennig is somebody who's been poached and has been hunted after, and she went to Visceral, and now she's going to Skydance, and I think it's a little bit different there because she has the experience and she's leading the team and she has the creative control. So I'm not quite as pessimistic in that regards, but I mean, yeah, those are two huge undertakings. I think it just comes down to when we see more and hear more about either game, it'll be easier to judge whether or not they've bit off more than they can chew. But as of right now, we know very little about both games, except, the implication being that this new Star Wars game will be something to the caliber of Ragtag, which is supposed to be like an Uncharted in Star Wars, right? So we know that one's probably going to be big, but until we know more about both games, I think it's hard to say whether or not they're pushing themselves too thin.
I will add. Oh, Dan, did you have more?
I was just going to add one little bit there. I think that's another thing we talked about, a few weeks ago about, looking at the studio heads from top down versus the team up. And, Microsoft brought in Daryl Gallagher to the initiative to build that team from Crystal Dynamics. And yes, Amy Hennig is amazing and like she's at the top of the chain, but like, does that, filter through to the rest of the team? I think is something we'll have to wait and see, like what that looks like, I guess.
Right.
And that was my answer, is what does the team look like?
Yeah.
If you go to the Skydance website, I'm only getting information about two folks. If you go over to the careers and go over to teams, sorry, no, that's for people who are hiring. If you scroll down the bottom, you get Amy Hennig, president, and Julian Beek, which is executive VP. And I don't know any more details on team. But for me, what's really going to speak to whether or not they're spreading themselves too thin or not is how well leadership is able to kind of work around that. And like depending on who they bring in, who they hire, how they lead their team forward, it'll really speak whether or not they're going to be spreading themselves too thin. And I hope that they don't, because if they can hire like veteran, kind of people from the industry, then I think they'd be okay. Like Naughty Dog, after Uncharted 2, it split into two teams and then worked on Uncharted 3 and The Last of Us at the same time, and that was like, right. Sure, they weren't like a huge studio at that point. That's kind of more behind the scenes, but like it's not impossible is my answer.
Right.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat, and we've had situations in the past where we see the name and then we're like, oh, this is going to be a great, whatever they make is going to be great. Whatever the studio that, like the Halo guy is the most recent example that I could think of. I don't remember what his rank was, but he made what was the game? Disintegration?
Yep, Disintegration. Yep.
And that didn't work out too well, and he had to close down his studio. I think he handled it really well, but that just goes to show that the name isn't everything. And as Christian was saying, it's also about how that leader leads and how the people that they're leading, how talented they are and how well they could work in that time frame that they're given. I think with the name Amy Hennig, that already gives us confidence in the project, but like everybody was saying, only time will tell. But I mean, maybe this is not such a great comparison, but some of the greatest games of all time were made by just one person. So I can see this turning out just fine as long as they, as we're talking about with Crunch, to just do it well and they take their time, and everything will turn out fine if they just go about it the right way. And with Amy Hennig at the lead again, it's just a name, but I don't know her personally. But with her track record, I just have a little bit more confidence in that name and in that team because of her leadership and her past. So yeah.
Dan, we'll find out in 2026.
Yeah. 2026 when we get these games.
Not that far away, actually. 4 years. Yeah.
All right, so this is the last question I have about this in particular. What would you guys most want to see from this game? Do you want, obviously, I'm sure we all agree we want to see something different than Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order is a great game, but like I want to see something new, like something in that universe that is exciting. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts? What do you most want to see from this?
Narrative. I think if Amy can really nail complex characters, everything else will follow. Because look at The Mandalorian. Like, do I care about this random dude? I didn't, right? And then he turns out to be like a really complex character, and like now that's the driving force for the entire show. Like I want it, like the way he handles every situation is based off who he is as a character, and that leads to very interesting encounters throughout the show. And Amy, I think, can write complex characters, right? So if that happens, no matter what it's going to be, I think it's going to in the setting of Star Wars. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
Agreed.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I would love like a similar Rogue One situation where they're not taking it from the eyes of a Jedi or the Chosen One or whatever, just like some regular folks on the battlefield, like in that sort of situation. I would love to see, but as Christian said, story is what I want. Narrative, that's what takes the highest priority for me. I just want a good story, and if it is told from the eyes of a Jedi, as long as it's good, I will play it probably. So I want a third person action adventure in Star Wars that isn't from the Jedi's point of view. That's what I would want.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Ro, you just said Rogue One, and I just thought like a story with like, you know, high stakes, like them stealing something like in the Star Wars universe. That sounds super cool.
Dan, let me up the ante here. Could you imagine a Battlefield Bad Company style Rogue One game? That would be amazing. Just
cool.
little vignettes and like missions where everything's going crazy. Like that would be awesome.
Oh,
that'd be so cool. Yeah, I definitely have Star Wars franchise fatigue, and I'm sick of all the media. But the thing with games is like gameplay is like such a huge part of it that like you can look past it, right? So like I'm excited for this game because it's an Amy Hennig game that just happens to be Star Wars. Because if the gameplay is solid and the narrative is well written, it doesn't matter what all the surrounding pieces are. It's just I'm there for that experience. So yeah, I can't wait to see what she does.
All right, guys. So that's
Gameplay is Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say gameplay is automatically more fun when you do use a Jedi, though. I just realized like that's already like an easy win right there. Instead of using a guy with a gun or without those powers.
I don't know. Battlefront is the most fun I've had out of all the Star Wars games, including Jedi Fallen Order, and that's most of the time you just do shooting in that game. So I think it can work.
Look at 1313. Like,
yeah,
that's I mean, that's not to say Ragtag will be this, but like that game looked super interesting, and it just because it was like a father and a son. I think they were father and son, bounty hunters, just engaging in this world.
Yeah,
and like they're not Jedi.
That would be sick. Guys, so that's Amy Hennig's game. I just wanted to do a quick rundown of current Star Wars projects in development, and we can kind of talk about this a little bit. But we have Star Wars Hunters, which is a free-to-play team-based multiplayer game for the Nintendo Switch and mobile, which I completely forgot about this game.
Did not even know that was a thing.
Yeah, we of course already got Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga earlier this year. Actually, not that long ago, a couple weeks ago. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 is, of course, still on the radar from Respawn. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, which is coming very soon, sometime soon, for PS5 and PC. Respawn's Star Wars FPS. So Respawn working on a couple of Star Wars games.
Yeah. This is a Republic Commando. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my bones. I want to wipe guts off of my visor with the little thing again. That was awesome.
And you know where else you'll wipe off guts from your vehicle when you're traveling in Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game, which is also on the way from Massive Entertainment, which is also making Avatar, the video game. So that's
Okay,
Now,
talk
to
about
be
a team that's
fair-
spread too thin. This is the one.
That's true.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
If this game is made in Snowdrop, I might have some hope for it. But if it's just another generic Ubisoft slog, then yeah.
Of course, we got Star Wars Eclipse, which was announced at the Game Awards that Christian and I saw in person there. That was crazy.
I will bet that this game never comes out.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
Big bet.
Never comes out.
And that was the game they said was still years out, right?
They can't even hire people for this damn game.
Yeah.
It's not coming out.
Oh wait, there's more. Respawn's third Star Wars game. They're working with Bit Reactor, making a strategy game. I don't think it has an official name yet, but strategy Star Wars game. And then of course now Amy Hennig's Star Wars game. So with all of those projects in the works, guys, my question to you guys, are you guys worried about Star Wars franchise fatigue at this point? Especially, I guess, now that EA doesn't own the exclusive rights to it, Disney can kind of just give it to whoever at this point.
I wouldn't say worried. I would say, again, if you're a Star Wars fan, this is probably the best time, because the fact that the license isn't exclusive means that you can't just sit back and you have to really work for it to get that sequel or whatever, that prolonged licensing deal that you want. So, I mean, I think there's a good chance that a lot of these games might be decent, but yeah, I don't. In terms of the overall Star Wars lore and ethos, I could give a shit. I'm just gonna play these games for however the game looks when we get a gameplay trailer or something like that. But it is. I just did the poll here at the bottom, so I just want to share some numbers with you guys. Yeah. So apparently, KOTOR remake has taken the lead in terms of most excited by a long shot. And then closely behind we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2. And then Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game, rounding out the top three. And then after that, we've got Star Wars Eclipse in fourth. So a lot of people are excited for KOTOR. That's going to be cool. But I think, that's the thing. It's like the hype for KOTOR. It's like, is it because it's Star Wars, or is it because people want a really cool RPG that's set in the Star Wars?
It's because it's KOTOR.
Exactly. Yeah, and KOTOR is one of the most famous in-depth RPGs ever. So I think a lot of this hype for these games is going to be like, oh, cool, I always wanted X type of game in the Star Wars universe with the Star Wars aesthetic. I don't think it's necessarily the fact that people are super hyped about Star Wars. It's just like, Star Wars looks cool. It sounds cool. It always has. So now you just get these types of games in that universe.
Dan, I can answer your question when you say, do you have Star Wars fatigue? I can answer no, because I don't look at these games as Star Wars properties necessarily. Right. I look at the teams, right? Just like how Gage was saying. I like Respawn Star Wars. I'm excited because it's Respawn. Yep. Jedi Fallen Order 2, I'm excited because Respawn made Jedi Fallen Order 1, and I thought that story was great. Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, same thing there, because I'm excited because it's an Amy Hennig game. Where I get fatigued is stuff like TV shows that feel like content and not actual And when I say that, and there's very cool episodes of Star Wars Visions that I really enjoyed, and I'm excited for season 2 now. So. Yeah, again, it's the studios and the people making the games and the stories behind those games that I'm excited for, and not so much the Star Wars name.
Sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. What Christian just said about it being the studios. Totally agree. As I said earlier, I do have Star Wars fatigue right about now. But if, for example, if Naughty Dog were making a Star Wars game, I would be there day one. I don't care if it's Star Wars, I'll be playing it because it's a Naughty Dog game. So I think I'm in the same boat where games just seem to have a separate capacity for me that I can play a little bit more of or indulge a little bit more in the franchise because it is a game. But in other mediums, I'm a little bit Star Wars'd out right about now. But maybe at the end of all of this, when all these games have released and I played all of them, will I still want to play another one in the future? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah.
Okay, cool. I have one more question for you guys. Ooh. Which game do you guys want most out of that list of Star Wars games we have coming? I will tell you, the one that I am most anticipating is probably, even with us not knowing anything about it, is probably the Respawn FPS, because I love FPSs. I love Respawn. Titanfall's amazing. So I'm very excited to see what they can do with that genre. Of course, I'm excited for everything else, like Jedi Fallen Order 2 and everything else. But yeah, I'm interested to see what that turns into. But Ro, what's your most anticipated Star Wars project coming?
This is kind of a weird thing to say, but I think I would be excited for Star Wars Eclipse if it wasn't attached to all that craziness that studio is going on with, just because of the type of games that studio does make. I just speaks to me a little bit more like the narrative and the choice-driven stuff. I just really like that stuff, and that being in a Star Wars game, I think would really jive with my type of gameplay. But what Christian said, it totally makes sense because they can't hire anybody. I may not ever see that game, but that would probably be the one that I would be most excited for, because I just like that style of gaming with the multiple branching storylines, and that just sounds like up my alley.
It'll be cool to see how because they said that that they're still doing all that stuff, but they're also adding a lot of combat and exploration and stuff like that. So it'll be really cool to see how those two things come together, because I also really like Quantic Dreams. I loved Detroit Become Human. So it's like, again, yeah, that type of narrative stuff in the Star Wars universe, like that could be really, really cool.
I wish I loved Detroit. I only like one of those stories, and it's the detective story. I think for me, Quantic Dream only knows how to do detective stories. When they branch out and like, oh, this isn't so good. Your themes are
that heist, the TV station heist was one of the best set pieces in a video game I've ever. That was awesome. That was so cool.
It's a shame how they treated that character, though.
Yeah.
Gage, what's your most anticipated Star Wars project?
Dan, your logic for your answer was flawless and is the correct answer. I am dying to see Respawn go back to the genre that put them on the map, that they have done flawlessly every time. Yeah, of course I want to see this first-person shooter, even if it's not Republic Commandos, which I feel like the T-ball is set. Like, there's no way it's not Republic Commandos, but even if it isn't, like, I'm just excited to see Respawn back in their home turf, because everybody loved Jedi Fallen Order, and I tried to get into it. I think the game's a lot more janky than people give it. I think people are a little too high in that game. It's got a lot of jank, to me at least. But
did you play near launch?
No, I picked it up on the Series X. I downloaded it like a couple months ago. Yeah.
It's got some jank. I agree.
It's got some jank, but like the fact that that game was so well received, and it's not even like their native sort of style of game. You know what I mean? So it's like to see Respawn go back to what they are kings at, which is first-person shooters, like fast and fluid. That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. What if it's not a Republic Commandos? What if it is more like Titanfall, where it's like you're playing as a Mandalorian and you can run in jetpack and do all that stuff? Like, that would be awesome. That would be so cool.
I just want to thank both of you for saying that Jedi Fallen Order has a lot of jank, because I argued with Sean about that for so freaking long. I would argue about how stupid certain things were, and the game's perfect. I'm like, Sean,
the game. I have no doubt the game is great, and I've heard a lot of great things. Like the story's great, the combat's great. But I could tell you looking at it. I'm like, the running animation is really weird and janky, and like the climbing, like it's got jank to it. But like again, this is a developer that's only done first person shooters, so I would expect that. But no, the FPS for sure, without a doubt.
Christian, round us. Oh, sorry.
I don't think it's that full of jank. But it does have a lot of it. Like it could use a bit more polishing, and yet despite its flaws, I still ended up loving it. So
for sure, yeah,
that's where I fall.
Agreed.
My answer would have been Respawn's, but just the announcement of Amy Hennig, like I think she deserves a win.
Yeah. After
so long, and I really want to play a game that she makes in the Star Wars universe. So I think I'm going to vote with that one for as my most anticipated.
Heck yeah! Let's do our idea. We came up with the idea, Amy. Just do it and pay us for it. Right?
Pay us.
All right. Anything else before we close out the show, guys?
Hey, Amy Hennig, please pay Dan so he can pay us.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Gage. All right. Thank you again to everyone joining us live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you, Ro. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Gage. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love, and keep on gaming.
Hell yeah, gamers. Let's go.
Goodbye.